Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another year in review video. I hope you guys had a great 2023. For me, it has been quite the adventure. I managed to finish 16 videos this year, including this one, which is more than ever before. But I simultaneously don't feel like I did as much or as much that I can be proud of. So we'll talk about that. Certainly, there are a lot of things that I accomplished this year, and I am proud of the things I did. I started this thing last year where I would give each year its own theme, something I picked up from video online. So I decided that 2023 was going to be a year of new beginnings, and I was being a little bit coy there. Jessica was pregnant at the time, so we knew that we were going to have our baby girl, and I was looking forward to that new beginning. But I also wanted to embrace some other new beginnings. So the first thing I started was the 20 Games Challenge. I started this back in end of 2021 when I started this YouTube channel, but I decided to not just start the challenge for myself, but actually create a resource so other people could join that challenge. And that has been really exciting. Now, this thing's taken on a life of its own. I've noticed that there's now a disconnect between when I post a video and when people join the challenge. At first it was just a thing that I was doing, and now people are trickling in all the time from all over the place as people are making games and sharing those games, and it's been really cool seeing this thing grow and take on a life of its own. We actually have, I think, over 260 members in the Discord, but the more impressive statistic to me is the 75 games that were produced as a part of this challenge this year. So that's just various people doing what I was doing and following this method, and that's been really cool to me as I've been learning to make games. There's one of the lessons I learned is sometimes you have to finish the tutorial before starting the main quest, and a lot of my failures to move forward this year have actually been mostly me sitting and learning things, even if they were hard lessons, and that has value too. But so I've been focusing on learning, but as I'm learning, I wanted to share as I go and to provide opportunities for other people to also learn in perhaps a similar manner. So that was really cool and really exciting. And honestly, one of the highlights of the year is just watching this thing continue to blossom and grow. So that was probably the highlight of the year, but my other major goal was to finish and release, or at least get into a working state, my very first real game, and I was defining real game as something that would go on Steam. So I started working, I did a handful of devlogs, and most of them were pre-production and planning, which it turns out is difficult to translate into a video that people want to actually watch. I actually got to the end of the year and was frustrated. I'm like, no one cares about this game I made. And someone kindly pointed out to me that I didn't actually make a game. I just talked about intending to make a game, and I didn't give it a fair shot. And that hurt, but was true. So we're going to fix that next year. But yeah, I started working on this, but I didn't finish. And that was kind of unfortunate. I also didn't get many actual games made for the 20 Games Challenge. I think I only did two in total. I have a third one that's almost done. What did I spend my time doing then? Well, I finished 16 videos, which was a lot, but I got caught up on the, we'll say, YouTube treadmill. There's this thing that if you don't make YouTube videos, you don't see this, but on the dashboard, there are all these lights and all these indicators. You see here for my most recent video, it's performing well, but there's this one checkbox that says this is good, but not as good as it could be. All these things. I actually recorded this earlier, and you see when it's doing really well, there's confetti that shoots out and all these things. There is a strong incentive. It's not just internal, it's not just me, but there's a strong, deliberate incentive from companies like YouTube to maximize content. Now, I started looking at the subscriber count more than I should have. I started thinking about how do I grow the YouTube channel. Even though I didn't start out to make a YouTube channel, I started out to make a difference through the games that I'm making. Ultimately, my goal way back when I was talking to a friend about this, I said, I want to make a game that tells a story that has the potential to change one person's life. I've been following in the footsteps of people like C.S. Lewis. I want to write stories like that, but in games. And so I had this idea, and ultimately I just had to stop as I've been reflecting. I wrote a script about 2 months ago for this video and had a lot of conversations, ended up throwing most of it out. But as I've been reflecting over this, I realized I have enough subscribers to do that original dream, to finish and release a game that can impact one person. And I don't need to chase the numbers. I don't need to produce content for content's sake. Not everything needs to be a video. Sometimes it's okay to go out and to learn something, to have an adventure, and just to be fine with that. And so I actually am right now working on updating the 20-inch challenge website, trying to move it to its own domain. And at first I was like, oh, this needs to be a video. And it's like, that's already being promoted. That is growing on its own. I don't need to make a special video just about this because producing that video also takes time. Now, one thing that did turn out well with all that, as I was starting to think about content and growing the channel and whatnot, there's a crisis with Unity you probably heard of, and I thought, I could make a quick tutorial about this that might help. I think it was about 10 at night, I had the idea, and I had work in the morning, and I knew if I didn't get this out now, I was going to miss that kind of hype train as everybody was freaking out and looking for switching to Godot tutorials. And so I recorded, edited, shot, and published a video in a single night, and still got somewhat some amount of sleep before work the next morning. And that was a bit of a paradigm shift because I had never made a video that didn't take 3 weeks to edit before this point. I just realized there were a lot of little things I was doing, like trying to cut out every single in my voiceover dialogue that people weren't appreciating. It wasn't making anything better. It was just taking a lot of time. And even with having faster methods and not doing everything, I can still come back and I can add extra editing or effects or whatever if I need to with that extra time that I save by not going and being a perfectionist about things. So that was a really cool revelation that has led to more productivity, faster time. But yeah, another thing as I started doing these tutorials, I started doing every node in Godot using explained. And basically, I'm just going to walk through each individual node and look at how it works, actually use it, and learn a bit, and then also share. So I don't want to make tutorials about things I don't understand. That doesn't help anything. But as I'm going through and learning these, I think it's useful to be able to share for other people. Something very recently, in the past 2 months, I was randomly on the internet and someone told me about this application called Obsidian. It's a note-taking app, and I was already using Joplin, which is like a free open source Evernote, but it seemed interesting enough that it was worth switching or at least trying it. I try not to switch my tools all the time because it is a waste of time. It's not helpful to be constantly switching things. Usually the tools aren't the problem, it's the person using them, but in this case it seemed different and I decided to try it. So on November 7th, I started using this app. This is actually where I got my video script now. But so you see, this is an overview of all my notes. And yeah, I can come in and I can just click into any note. Here's a random daily note that I've been taking. And so I've been doing all sorts of various tracking and notes. And I have a Kanban board that's going through my tasks, everything I need to do. I have my daily notes every day. I'm going through just little to-do lists, hour by hour, how did I spend my time today? And then at the end of every week, I've started evaluating. I sit down and just have even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, a weekly review with myself. And I just look through and say, hey, how did this week go? Did I do good? What can I improve? And so that rapid cycle of being able to reflect and think about things and not have to get to a year in review video at the end of the year and think about things, I think is going to help me focus a lot better. The funny thing is, I just was getting a baseline for these past 2 months. I'm like, I don't know how I'm spending my time. I'm going to track every hour of each day and see what I can improve. And something Heisenberg principle, I guess, but simply seeing how I spend my time has changed the way I spend my time. I had one day where I managed to spend 8 hours on YouTube. I don't know how I found time for that, but seeing that caused me to stop and reflect and go, maybe this isn't how I wanted to spend today. What can I do better? But yeah, so that's been really exciting. I can't wait to come back a year from now and see how being more deliberate about things is helping. Again, this might be someone else's nightmare, but as an engineer, it is really exciting. I guess I'm getting old. I'm excited about process, but it's been really cool to just see all of these things start to add up and just see this snowballing of getting things done and being more productive with the time that I have and not even allocating more time, but just using it well. I believe that this year I found my maximum productivity as far as time investment. This is so I'm not going to be trying to spend more time making games in the future. I think I found that limit of what's healthy. You can't just, crunch and burnout happen when it's like I'm going to invest 80 hours a week into this. It's not possible. That just you it's same thing as going and lifting weights all day at the gym and not resting. So you need those cycles of rest. And I think I found that balance. But what I haven't found yet is a way to maximize the productivity within the time that I have. So going, if I have 2 hours tonight and it's only 2 hours, how do I make those 2 hours useful and do something that matters with that time? So for this next year, I have a plan up front. I have each month, I'm either going to be making a game in the 20 inch challenge, or I'm going to be making a video devlog for my actual game. And I'm going to be going back and forth between those throughout the year. So by the end of next year, my goal is to be done with both, with the 20 games challenge and with my first project. The goal was never for this game to be massive and to be a 5-year development slog. So if I get to the end of next year and it seems like this is worth investing more time into, I'll do that. But the goal is to have a completed version of the game, and if it's time to call it good enough and move on, then I have the ability to do that. If the 20 inch challenge or my devlogs take up the full month, then that's it. But if I have extra time, then I'm going to do a tutorial of some kind. And I think that's going to be the plan going forward in this next year. I know from looking back that I'm capable of doing one game per month and one video per month. As crazy as that sounds, these are small projects. And as the games in the 20 inch challenge are getting more complicated, I really want to focus on learning the time management strategies and the scheduling strategies to go, this can be a shortcut I can take, and this doesn't need to be this good, and this part doesn't need to exist. So managing scope is a really hard thing to learn, and it's something I've been getting better at, but it's something I want to actually master, and to be able to go, no, this game can exist without being massive and without having additional features that the end player isn't going to appreciate. So overall, I am proud of what I was able to accomplish this year. I'm really happy with the lessons learned, even the hard ones, even what I saw as time wasted. It's interesting looking back with the tools I now have, especially time management tools, and seeing the failures I had that I wasn't able to realize there was a problem until a month or 2 months down the line. And now having a weekly review process where I'm sitting down and considering how did this week go, I think I'll be able to much more rapidly pause and think and say, maybe this thing needs to be abandoned. Maybe I actually canceled the project this year. I've never done that before. But maybe this thing needs to be abandoned. Maybe this isn't the right focus, maybe whatever. So I think having that will help. But I have a much more rigid plan for this next year than I had for this year. And I think that's a good thing. I'm excited to see where things go. I would love to reach the end of the year and have a game that people are interested in, and a game that, even if it's not fully done, is worth playing in its current state. So that's going to be the goal. Look forward to seeing everyone in the new year. As always, let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your feedback. And yeah, thank you for watching. A happy new year. Merry Christmas. I will see you next year.